Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm pleased to bring you a review of the 2017 Chateau Ferriere. Chateau Ferriere is one of 14 third growths. It's from the Margaux region. And it is originally in 1855 when it was classified. It was actually a very small winery. It had about 8 hectares. It's almost tripled its size since. So right now it consists of 24 hectares, of which is planted 51% Cabernet Sauvignon, 41% Merlot, 6% Cabernet Franc, and 2% Petit Verdot. The winery was named after Gabriel Ferriere, who was the royal in charge of the king's hunts in the 18th century. And it was in the Ferriere family until 1914, when it was sold to Armand Feuillerat. And he was at that time the owner of Marquis de Terme. In 1952, it was taken over by Alexis Lichine. And when he managed Chateau Ferriere, he used most of the grapes for the next 40 years. He leased it. And for the next 40 years until approximately 1991, most of the grapes of Chateau Ferriere was used to produce Château Lascombes, which is I think a second growth in the Margaux region. So consequently, there was very little Chateau Ferriere actually produced. I think it might have been just specialized production. Maybe some very limited production went to people in France and maybe to some of the airlines. And so that has probably added to the obscurity of this winery, and maybe that has taken it away from people loving this wine. It's now run by Claire Villars-Lurton, who also manages Château Haut-Bages-Liberal and the Gurge, and her husband owns Château Durfort-Vivens. So really, there's a 40-year period between 1952 and 1991 where essentially no Ferriere was produced. So you don't see Ferriere very much, and therefore it couldn't get a following. And so it's really only been since 1991 when it has been in there. So their soil is basically gravel with chalk and sand. And some of their vines are 50 years old. And so they are probably some of the best soils in the village of Cantenac in the Margaux region. They were certified organic in 2015 and certified biodynamic in 2018. Their wines are aged in oak barrels for 18 months. About 40% is new oak. But it's important to note that after the 2016 vintage, about 20% of the wines are aged in amphora, and that includes this wine. And as my viewers know, I'm a big believer in amphora. Amphora are the clay pots that were used in the Roman times to age wines. And I don't know the technology around it, but I actually do find that without knowing it, a lot of times that the wines that are aged in amphora do taste a little bit fresher to me and have a bit more vibrancy. And so I'm a big believer in amphora wines. The 2017 vintage of this wine was 51% Cabernet Sauvignon, 41% Merlot, 6% Petit Verdot, and 2% Cabernet Franc. And as I did more research on this wine and tasted it, I was really impressed with this because, first of all, it's not a very well-known wine. And now I know why. For the really important vintages in Bordeaux, like 1982 or 1989 or 1990, there was no Chateau Ferriere, so they couldn't build a following. And it was only after 1991. So really their history is very young. And it's taking time for people to kind of get to know this wine. Secondly is they have done a lot with this biodynamic and organic and using amphora. They've used a lot of technology, and I really believe with global warming, all the factors are coming together. This is a really, really well-priced wine for a third growth. And now I know why, because no one knows it. And that to me speaks of value. So I'm really impressed with this wine. This part of the video I've done after my tasting, and my tasting of it was very shocking. In fact, I had it with dinner with many people. Everyone enjoyed it. This in BC liquor stores is under $100. It's an unbelievable value. I preferred it to the 17 brand Cantenac, which is a second growth wine. It speaks to Margaux, and I just think people overlook this wine, including myself, because we just didn't know the history of this wine. The other thing that this wine represents with the 17 vintage is how Margaux really, the region really does very well in what we would consider off vintages. So typically, Bordeaux drinkers love these hot vintages like 82, 90, 95, 09, 010, 15. And they stay away from kind of what they call lesser vintages like 17. 17 really wasn't a great vintage in Bordeaux, and I've drank a lot of 17s which I thought are very early drinking. But by contrast, the Margaux region, and in particular Ferriere, made a great wine here because as my viewers and subscribers will know from my previous Margaux region video, Margaux is one of the hottest regions in Bordeaux, and also generally the grapes are picked earlier. And so even if you have a weak vintage like 17, it really doesn't affect it as much as cab dominant vineyards in Pauillac or Saint Julien, which need that type of heat and need a long growing season. So I really like what came together here, and I'm really high on this wine now. Now that I've done a little research with it, I've tasted it, I think it's really, really well valued. Maybe you can't make money on it, but for a drinker, for regular consumers, this is a very, very nice price for a third growth wine. This is no kidding. And again, the reason why I think they don't get the attention that maybe other third growths or even fifth growths in Pauillac are is that they missed 40 years, including some of the best vintages in Bordeaux. So you can't build a following on that. So let's taste the wine. Had this open now for about an hour. On the nose, it's coming around. It is a little tight in terms of the fragrance. I smell some violets and some plums, but not that aromatic. I think it will improve as it aers a little bit more. So maybe a couple of hours for the aeration. On the taste, I get a lot of dark fruits. I get some violets, some cranberries, a little bit of smoke and tobacco, a little bit of minerality. Very smooth, very relaxing. It just feels like a wine that's really comfortable with itself. And I can only compare this to the 2017 brand Cantenac, which is also I reviewed. I felt that that was kind of almost pretentious. I know it's not the real word. It's not trying to be pretentious, but it just doesn't seem like it's as well integrated as this wine. This wine just feels so comfortable. It's so relaxing. It feels very natural as a third growth. I just love the feel of this wine in terms of the silkiness and the relaxing nature of this. I think it's very well balanced, got lots of minerality, represents the Margaux region very well. The point scores of this wine is not very high. I see a lot of 88, 87 point wines. I actually quite like this wine. In fact, I like this wine better than the 17 brand Cantenac, and almost better than a lot of the 2010s that Margaux that I drank here. I just think it's just stylistically, Margaux shouldn't be over powerful. This is, to me, stylistically Margaux, what Margaux should be like. Very relaxing, soft, subtle, medium bodied, medium tannins, lots of intensity of flavor, but a little bit on the aromatic side, but very, very pleasing with a touch of minerality. I really like this wine. I'm going to give it 91 points. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Until next time, happy drinking.